You ever have one of those days where you feel like you just can't focus? Like trying to really sink your teeth into a good book or a complex problem feels harder than it used to? Well, you are definitely not alone. And what's wild is that, according to some pretty startling data, this isn't just a feeling we're all having, it's a real measurable trend happening all over the world. So, let's get into it.
This was the headline that just jumped off the page of a recent Financial Times article. It's the question that really kicked off this whole conversation about our brains and our tech. I mean, what a question, right? Have humans passed peak brain power? It sounds like science fiction, but as we're about to see, there's some very real and frankly very concerning data behind it.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the actual data that suggests we might be in some kind of cognitive decline. Then we'll zero in on a really specific moment in time, this 2012 inflection point. After that, we'll dig into a theory called the cognitive death spiral to understand the mechanics of what's going on. And don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. We'll finish up by looking at how we can actually fight back.
So, first things first. Is this idea of peak brain just, a vibe, or is there something real to it? Let's take a look at what the numbers actually say. Okay, this sentence right here is the heart of it. This is the big conclusion from the Financial Times analysis. And notice the wording. It's not saying we're biologically getting dumber. It's saying our ability to reason and solve new problems, to apply our intelligence, seems to have hit a wall and then started to drop, right around the early 2010s.
And here is the hard proof. This is data from the PISA tests, which are given to 15-year-olds all over the world. And it's just undeniable. Look at this. In reading, math, and science, the scores climb, hit a high point right around 2012, and then they start to fall. It's the same pattern across the board. And before you think, oh, this is just a problem with kids these days, it's not. Not at all. Other studies show the exact same pattern in adults. Across every single age group, the ability to reason and solve problems is heading in the wrong direction. That tells you something much, much bigger is going on here. It's not about the school system, it's something in our environment. Okay, so if everything started to go south around 2012, what on earth happened in 2012? Well, when you start playing detective and looking at the timeline, one very, very obvious suspect emerges that completely changed how we live our daily lives. The timing here is just impossible to ignore. It's like a smoking gun. Before 2012, things are pretty stable. Then, right around the time that smartphones went from being a cool gadget for a few people to being in literally everyone's pocket, well, that's when all those trend lines we saw started to nosedive. And this isn't just about abstract test scores. It's about how people feel. Check this out. For decades, the number of 18-year-olds who said they had difficulty thinking or concentrating was totally flat. And then, you guessed it, around 2012, the line just goes vertical. It skyrockets. People are feeling their ability to focus just slip away. So why? What was it about the smartphone that changed everything? Well, it's because the entire business model of the internet changed. In the old days, the goal of a website or a piece of software was to be useful. You'd go there, do a thing, and leave. But in the post-smartphone world, the goal became totally different. Be maximally addictive. Capture as much attention as possible for as long as possible. The attention economy was born. And what that looked like in practice was a shift from finite web pages that we would actively choose to visit to these infinite, bottomless feeds that just wash over us. Our whole relationship with information got rewired. We went from being the driver, seeking things out, to just being a passenger, passively consuming a torrent of algorithm-driven content. Okay, so we've got the what? Declining cognitive skills, and we've got the win around 2012 with the rise of the smartphone. But what about the how? How is this actually happening inside our brains? The writer Cal Newport has a really powerful theory for this, and he calls it the cognitive death spiral. So the death spiral is basically this vicious cycle. Our brains get totally hooked on the quick, easy, unpredictable hits of dopamine we get from our phones. A new like, a new email, a new video, hit, hit, hit. And as our brains get rewired to expect that constant, fast-paced stimulation, it becomes genuinely harder to focus on slower, deeper, more demanding tasks. And because it's harder, we start to avoid them. It's a real double whammy. First, because we're constantly distracted, we have a harder time using the intelligence we've already got. You can't think deeply if you're checking your phone every 3 minutes. And second, because deep thinking now feels so difficult and unrewarding compared to scrolling, we stop doing the very things, like reading books or just thinking through a problem, that actually make us smarter over time. And if you want to see evidence for that second step,
Look no further than this chart. It's just brutal. It shows the percentage of U.S. teenagers who read for fun. And just like all the other charts, right around 2012, the lines just completely break apart. The line for kids who read almost every day absolutely plummets, while the line for those who hardly ever read just shoots through the roof. We are abandoning one of the most fundamental workouts for the mind.
I love this quote from Cal Newport because it puts it so perfectly. Reading isn't just a quaint little hobby. It's mental calisthenics. It's weightlifting for your brain. It forces you to follow a long, complex argument, to hold ideas in your head, to build a world from scratch. It is straight-up exercise.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, but the story absolutely does not end here. Because once you understand the problem, you can start to build a solution. The key is we have to be intentional. We have to fight back on purpose.
And to figure out how, Newport offers this just brilliant analogy. Think back to the 1950s. Office jobs became common, people sat in chairs all day, and our physical health started to suffer. What did we do? We didn't get rid of offices. We invented the concept of physical exercise. We started jogging, going to gyms, doing workouts to make up for the activity we'd lost. Well, today, we're in the exact same spot with our minds. We've lost the natural built-in practice of sustained attention, so now we have to invent cognitive exercise.
So, what does a mental workout actually look like? Well, here are 4 really concrete ideas. 1, read actual books, and please put your phone in another room while you do it. 2, avoid something called stimuli stacking. We'll define that in a sec. 3, take walks without headphones or podcasts. Just walk and let your mind wander. And 4, pick up a deep hobby, something that requires real focus, like playing an instrument, or woodworking, or even a complex sport.
So let's just be crystal clear on this one, because it's a habit so many of us have. Stimuli stacking is when you're doing more than one thing at once. You're watching a show, but you're also scrolling through social media on your phone, or you're listening to a podcast while answering emails. Every time you do that, you're training your brain that one stream of information isn't enough, and it destroys your ability to give your full attention to any one thing.
Look, the point of all this is not to go live in a cabin and throw your phone in a lake. That's not realistic. This is about developing new habits for the world we actually live in. Think of it like dental hygiene. We live in a world with sugar, so we brush our teeth every day to counteract the effects. This is the same idea. We need a new routine for our mental health. We need good cognitive hygiene. And I think this quote from the philosopher Simone Weil just raises the stakes perfectly. To give something, or more importantly, someone, your full, undivided attention, that's an act of generosity. It's valuable. It's increasingly rare. And in our world today, it requires real effort and real practice to be able to give that gift. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Make no mistake, your brain is being trained every single day. Every time you pick up your phone and get lost in an infinite scroll, you are doing a rep. You're training your brain to crave distraction. But every time you put the phone down, pick up a book, or just go for a walk and listen to your own thoughts, you're also training your brain. You're building that attention muscle. So the only question left is, who is in charge of the workout?